Hi, welcome to Launch Tabletop. This is Eris, and I know you're seeing my face. It's new for me as well. So today we're doing something a bit different. As you may have already noticed, there's somebody else on the screen, and I'm pointing to a different monitor over here, not to where the camera is, because I have no idea what I'm doing, folks. So, as you can see, it's Kate. Hi, Kate.
Hello, how are you?
I'm obviously flummoxed, is what I am. So we are today going to be trying something a little bit different, both by being on camera and having the two of us going through the walkthrough. Today we're going to be showing how to do custom die lines for punch boards. So I'll just change the screen, and we'll go here. All right, and in case I'm not looking at the camera the whole time, it's because I've got things on other places. So sorry about that. All right, so as you can see on my screen here, we've got some of the projects that we've been working on in previous tutorials. If you've not seen any of our other videos before, then I recommend you check them out on our channel. We walk through some of the other basics for using LaunchLab. All right, so I'm just going to open up a project that I've already been working on. And if I go to Add Component, we will see we've got punchboard tokens. So punch boards are obviously the slightly thicker cardboard tokens that can be used for heaps of different things in games. Um, we've got a number of determined preset ones here, but what we're going to be focusing on today is the custom layout when you might want to have your own custom shapes or designs. So in this case, in LaunchLab, you would select custom layout. Now it does say there's a tooling fee. Kate, do you want to maybe just mention what that means to people?
Sure, a tooling fee relates to having to make a special tool. In this case, it's the actual die that we use to punch your specific layout. So we have a whole lot of tools in the factory for all the different layouts that we already have. But when someone needs a custom one, we have to make a tool for that. So
So each of these ones here with the different shapes, they're all separate tools. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
uh,
Separate die lines, I suppose?
sort of, it's a
Sort of?
little bit
More
more than
complicated?
that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
first thing that you have to do is it asks you to say what kind of token do you want, and then it goes, okay, well for that token I've got these options, and it talks
Okay, so
about
if
the
I was to
size and
pick
the
the
shape
small
of the board.
circle,
Yeah,
and then
that's not available in very many shapes and
okay,
sizes.
well, let's go for
Punch
a
board.
different one then. Oh, yeah.
If you pick one of the other ones, yeah. So
Yeah.
there are
Oh, yeah, and that's so
different
if I've
sizes
set
of board. Yeah, different sizes
mm,
of board to fit in the different sizes and shapes of box that we have. So some of the tokens are available on a small square and a small rectangle, and a medium square and a medium rectangle, and a large square and a large rectangle, and the extra large square.
yep,
When
and
we're coming to do a custom one, we don't have a tool that's set up for
mm,
that because you want your particular shapes. So we have to make one.
mm.
That's the tooling fee.
And with our pre-existing ones, I just noticed here that it tells you how many tokens to expect on that sheet. So if I've got a medium circle token, which is 25 millimeters in diameter on a square punch board, so that would to be fit into a square box, I imagine, and I was to click the small punch board size, that's going to give me 16 tokens. That's correct? Yeah.
That I believe is correct. It's possible that
Mm.
those numbers are slightly out of date because we redrew some of our
Okay.
die lines to make better use of the space.
Yep. But
Uh,
whatever the number, when the customer comes here, they'll
yeah,
whatever number they see, that should be what it is, hopefully.
yes, yeah.
And as usual for everyone, if you've got questions, reach out to us. Either leave a comment here or contact our support, and we'll obviously help you out.
Yep.
Okay, so today though we want to focus on the custom one. So if I go down to custom, it says tooling fee. I then get to pick my punch board shape. So in this square or rectangle, I think today we're going to go for a square. Is that correct?
Let's just do a
Um,
small square.
Small
Small
square.
square,
Okay, so that's what you pick. We street quantity is just how many duplicates of this do you want in your
particular
game?
layout, yes.
Yep, of this particular
So
one.
you might need, 100 of these particular tokens that you're doing. So you have to do lots of sheets to get that quantity, or you
Mm,
might only need as many as you can fit on a single board. So we allow
mm.
you to say,
Yep.
"No, I need 6 sheets or 2 sheets or just 1."
Yeah. Because one of the things is it was while a lot of and we haven't talked about this much on the video tutorials before, but like one of the things with LaunchLab is that you can use it both to make singular products, like a game that's all in one box together that you can then use straight away, open up and just play.
Mm.
Or you could also put things together yourself a bit. So in this case, you might order a few sheets, knowing they don't all fit into the one box, and then you can compile that later on when you're making your prototypes or your demo copies or whatever it is.
Mm.
That's kind of the idea, isn't it? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Pardon my little visitor who's just turned up on my desk. This is
No
Haley.
worries.
Haley likes to check that I'm working and
Hello,
not
Haley.
wasting time. So pardon
So
me.
we also, as the same for nearly all of our components, we've got the linen and the smooth texture options. Linen does always incur a slight extra fee. And then we've got our coating for matte and for gloss. We won't go over all of them here because if we haven't talked about them already, we'll talk about them somewhere else. Again, if you have questions, just ask. Okay. So, Kate, I might move over to your screen because
Yeah.
just to reiterate for people at home, once you've made all those selections, if you click Add Component, and I need to rename this because I've already got a punchboard sheet in my project. So when you add it to your project in LaunchLab, it will be down the bottom for me. I've got a thing. So it will generate the template files. So Kate's already downloaded the template for this one, but when you come to do it, you can download them for your project as well. All right. So Kate, I'll move over to your screen. There we go.
Alrighty. Great. So what we're looking at here is when you open up, and we're working in Illustrator today, when you open up the Illustrator template, the AI file in the little package of templates that you get, this is what you see. This is the small square. If it was a larger version of a square, it'd look very similar, just bigger, obviously. You can see there are two colored lines. So I'm just going to zoom in. You can see that there's a red one and a purple one. The red one shows you where the blade on the die will actually cut. So we're always paying attention to where the red one is. The purple one shows you the bleed. So bleed is if we're printing all over something, and of course, Eris, you know this, but just recapping for everybody who's watching, the bleed is if you're printing, you need to extend that ink all the way up to the edge of the bleed, just in case we get some drift, because not everything always lines up perfectly. So drift is when the image moves a little compared to where it's supposed to be cut.
And
It's completely normal to get a bit of drift as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, I've been working as a graphic designer with print for close to 20 years now. That's a long time, and it's often common to get it up to 2 to 3 mil, even sometimes drift. Not common, sorry. I should say it can happen. I'd say 1 mil is probably about standard. Like that's pretty typical for most things, but sometimes more happens. One thing I just wanted to maybe explain as well is you mentioned the die. When we talk about a die, that's actually like a blade. That's what we'll cut.
It's a strip of metal that's basically stuck into wood. It's very sharp, and if you turn it and look at it, it's the mirror image of the thing that's getting cut out. Obviously, if it's just a square, it still looks like a square, but it's very sharp, and it can have almost any shape that you want. And it's used to basically stamp into the cardboard that's got the printed stuff on the front and the back. And it has little breaks in the metal so that it doesn't separate that token completely.
Yes.
And
Because
so
that's why you
on
wanna
board.
otherwise it would just all fall out when you pick up the
Everything
sheet.
falls out.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for explaining that. Okay, well, I might just now enjoy your demonstration if that's okay.
Excellent. And if I leave anything out, make sure you
I'll
tell me
ask
that I skipped
questions.
something or
No
yes.
worries.
All right, so when we open up our AI template, this is what we're looking at. We've got literally just a die line. I'll turn it on and off so you can see it nice and clearly. So what we're aiming to do today is to create a new shape. We're going to create our custom shape. We're going to pretend that we're making a game that happens to have a pentagon shape in it, because we don't offer a pentagon with LaunchLab. So it is something that a person would have to create. So we're going to make a pentagon shape. I'm going to show you how to work out the safe margin and create a path for that, and how to create a bleed line as well for that, so we can see exactly how things need to line up. So the first thing, I've actually cheated. That's not really cheating, but
No,
here we
you've just
have.
been prepared.
I was prepared
Here's what
before.
I made earlier.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
This is a pentagon. It's got 5 sides, and you can see that the corners are a little bit rounded. With any shape that you make, it's important that your corners, if they are sharp corners, you have to round them off a little bit. And this is because the metal that they use, they can't bend it at an absolutely perfect sharp corner. It's always going to have a little bit of roundedness to it. So control that, you get to decide. So in this case, I just put a nice little rounding on it. It's nothing fancy.
The
But
other
I have
advantage
to.
so
Sorry.
sorry. I'll just interject. The other advantage of rounded corners is they're a bit safer for people to touch as well. They're not as sharp on your
Yeah, they're
fingers.
not as sharp, and
Mm,
also they don't get worn down with use in the same
oh,
way
yeah,
that a pointy corner does. So,
yeah.
when you've got a really sharp point on, say, like a piece of cardstock, as it
Mm,
gets used, it'll kind of fuzz up a bit and it gets rounded off anyway.
yeah.
By not giving sharp corners, but basically we prolong the life of the piece.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I agree.
yeah, we want our pieces to last longer.
Win-win.
So what I'm going to do is, first of all, this is a vector. It's
Mhm.
not made up of pixels. It's basically a mathematical algorithm, an equation to make it perfect. I could blow this thing up to be the size of a car and it would
Mm.
still look beautifully sharp. And all of our die lines, we always want them to be vectors. Note to self, we need to put vector into the Space Camp glossary if it's not already there. So what I need to do with
Kate,
this,
you're giving away our secrets that we've got
I
a space
know.
camp and a glossary. We haven't talked about any of that on the videos yet, so,
Yeah, I know.
hey,
Well, now we have. Our
sneak
secret
peek,
is
I
out.
mean, yeah.
Space Camp is our soon to launch knowledge base. You
Yes.
heard it here first, everyone. So anyway, what we're going to do with this shape is we're going to, can you see that? No, you can't see my menus. So that's
No.
a bit of a bummer. Anyway, I'm in the object menu and I'm going to go down to path. And from path, oh, look, the little pop
That's
out
funny,
shows up.
yeah.
That's bizarre.
Technology.
Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select offset path. So you can see that this huge thing's just turned up. 10 millimeters is too big. I want to offset it by 3 millimeters.
Yeah.
So I have just created a path that is exactly 3 millimeters away from my original die line all the way around. And
Yep.
this is for our bleed line. So I'm going
Mm.
to change that to purple because we use purple.
Mhm.
You don't have to use purple, but we've chosen purple for our particular
That
die
that
lines.
does that does raise a good question, though. When people are making their custom die lines, what do they do with the naming and the color and everything so that it works in our system more reliably?
In our system, the only thing that the system cares about is that you have a spot color
Okay.
that is called die line. So I'm pointing to it just here.
Yep.
If I could zoom in on that, I would, but I can't
Mm.
zoom in on it. But if you look really closely at that little piece of red, it's got a
Yeah.
white corner
Yep.
with a dot in it, and that says that it's a spot color. This
Mm.
thing here also says it's a spot color. This is really important. I apologize for my cat who is now telling me something is terribly wrong. I think she's telling me that she needs food. This is the time to do it. Anyway, we need to have this particular color here.
Yeah.
This is a color that's in our die lines that are supplied. So it's actually already there in
In the
Illustrator
template file? Yep.
when you use it.
Beautiful.
So I'm going to reuse exactly the same one.
Mhm.
And I already had, that's what I've used here. So you can
Mm.
see if I go and find, there is my die line right there. And you can see that it's using that particular one.
Mm.
The bleed is now set to use this bleed line.
Mhm.
Now, because the template for this particular thing doesn't have the safe margin or the safe zone, or the
Mm.
margin, sometimes it's called, I've created a spot color for precisely the purpose of doing this next bit, which is,
So
where's my
that
trouble?
screen safe one doesn't come in the template,
In this
standard?
particular template, no, but in
Okay.
most other ones it will. It's
Could
just,
you just show, our viewers how to create that? Is that okay?
yeah, I can do that. So what I did is actually, let me get rid of it. We'll just get rid of it. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a new color. Here's one. It happens to be green. It's a process color, which means that it relies on uh, passes
The full
to create
colorings,
it.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in this particular color mode. We don't want process, we want spot.
Yep.
So I've just set it to that. It still has the same values,
Mm.
but the
Yeah.
system, when it gets this, it'll go, oh, that's not a regular ink.
Yeah.
This is something important, and it won't treat it as regular ink. Just to remind me what it's for, I'm going to call it safe, because
Beautiful.
that's what we're using it for. We're using it for labeling the safe.
Yeah.
So back to my die line, here's my little pentagon. I'm going to make another path. So we go path, offset path, but this time instead of making one that's larger, I want to make one that's smaller. So we're going to make it -3 millimeters. And you can see that a line has just popped up in here.
Mm.
I'm going to click OK, and making sure I'm using the stroke, I'm going to set that to
Mhm.
green. The last thing I'm going to do with that, just so that it's not quite as heavy, is I'm going to use a dashed line
Mhm.
like that. So it looks quite different. And that is everything that we need for our custom shape.
And how you do the
Yeah.
dash line was you went to your stroke panel and you changed
Yep.
it in there. Yep. Yep.
So here's my stroke panel up here.
Unfortunately, I think we've got a StreamYard logo over the top of the
Oh,
panel.
good.
But that's okay. That's
Bring it
okay.
down here like
I'm
that.
sure
So
people will figure it out.
in the stroke option, there is this little dashed line. So if you watch the shape, if I turn the dashed line off,
Yeah.
whoop, look, everything got dashed because I had the entire thing.
Selected, yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll just go, there we go. It's just that
Yeah.
one selected.
Perfect.
Right.
Thanks
The
for that.
thing to remember about the die lines is these don't get printed. These won't show up on your final work. So
Mm.
they don't have to be beautiful. They just have to be accurate.
Yeah.
All right.
And also I think in the safe margin, because that's just a guide for where you put your artwork, the fact that it's sharp doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't have to be rounded as well.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it's fine. It's just if you want to ensure that everything gets printed that's important, don't go
Mhm.
any further out than this line. That's all it's for. So you
Yeah.
could go a little bit out beyond it if you want, and it should be
Mhm.
fine. I mean, you could
Mhm.
probably go 1.5 millimeters out, and it'd
Mhm.
probably be okay.
Mhm.
But we tell people 3 millimeters because that's the worst case scenario. So the next thing I need to do is I need to ensure that all of those layers are grouped together, because I'm going to be moving them around together. So here, they happen to be all in a group together. You can see this little group here. I can turn them on and off. And that's what I want. The next thing that I want to do
So
is to zoom out.
That's all right. Just to make it, just for those that don't know, in Illustrator, to group, if you select your objects, you can also use Command or Control G and Command and
Yep.
Control. Is it just G to ungroup, or is it U? Now I'm having a mental blank.
No, it's Control Shift G.
That's
on
right.
Windows.
Yeah.
Your
And
mileage may
it'll be
vary.
Command G, Shift G. Yeah, it's funny how some stuff I do without thinking, like, on autopilot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Your fingers just know where it is. So I can
That's right.
ungroup that particular
Mm.
thing. I just used Control Shift G.
And the other way to
And
get
each
to
of
it,
these is now a separate thing.
yeah, and the other way to get to it is up in the object menu, I believe, at the top, but which won't show up on our video because it's sharing.
Yes, here it
Yeah,
is.
but
It's
it's
up
not. It
there in
won't.
the object menu. There's an ungroup option up there
And
and
a
a
group
group
option.
option,
Yeah.
which if it's grouped,
So,
it won't let you use.
so there's a number of ways of getting that done.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to show you is I created some tokens. So we're just going to pretend that we've got a game that uses
Mhm.
pentagon-shaped tokens. So here are some pretties, as if I've got four players, and they each get a different layer. So this could, it might have a number in the middle or something like that, or it could just be a color. So this is what we're going to be using with
or an illustration, like if you had them as
our
coins or
lines.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing that we want to do is we need to, I'll just move that out of the way for the moment. What we need to do now is we need to draw up some limits, because when we're punching, we're weakening the cardboard by putting holes in it.
Yeah.
If we get too close to the outer edge, we will really weaken it, and you'll pick it up and it'll basically flop all over the floor, which when you're trying to put things in a box to ship them to someone is very, very annoying. It'll damage the pieces. It'll, really get in the way of things reaching our users safely. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple of squares, and I'm going to make them 13 millimeters. I'm going to just color it in with some yellow so we can see them.
Mhm.
And I'm going to butt that right up against the edge of the artboard. Now, the reason 13 millimeters is important is because this is 3 millimeters at the edge to the bleed, which
Yep.
means that to the corner here is 10 millimeters, which is the distance that we want between the outer cut and the inner cut, minimum of 10 millimeters. Can be
Yep.
more, could maybe be a bit less, but best not to. So
It
I'm going
10
to,
10 gives us that rigidity so that, yeah, the what
yeah,
yeah,
it stops
yeah,
it from being horribly floppy.
yeah.
So with those little squares, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a pair of guides that basically mark out the edge
Mm,
for that corner and that corner. These don't have to be perfect. It
mm,
just has to be reasonably close.
yep.
Then I'm going to get rid of my squares because I don't need them anymore.
Mhm.
So what I'm looking at here is I've got 4 guides. I'm actually going to drag them into a separate layer so they don't get in the way, and I'm going to lock them.
Lock them, yep, beautiful.
So inside where these little blue guides meet, I don't want my die line to be popping outside those guides.
Yep.
All right, so let's plan out our die. Here is my friend. So what we're doing is aiming to get this red as close as we can to these blue guidelines.
Oh, yep. Yep, because it's the cut line, not the bleed that needs to be in that safe margin. Okay.
Exactly right. So
Yep.
I'm going to zoom in and you can see that there's a little bit of space here. This is not an exact science.
Yep.
It's just get as close as you can.
And just you may already know this, but also if people don't, you can change your keyboard increment amount in your settings. So sometimes if I'm doing really fine work, I make it a really tiny value, like 0.001 millimeter or something like that. And
The user interface,
I
where is
think
it?
it might be in selection, maybe, or in general even.
Tolerance.
Maybe just try the first one. Try general, see if it's there. No, it's
Keyboard
not there.
increment, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
point
there.
0.3. So
Yeah,
let's make it 0.1 of a millimeter.
yeah. So, and I find that that's if I'm doing work where I really want to
There we
get
go.
that precision, I make it like sometimes I'll go like 0.001, like tiny amounts that I'm marginally moving things. That's when I'm being my usual very fussy self with
Yeah.
my layouts. Yeah.
So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to basically duplicate this shape. The bleed lines, we don't want them to cross over. We want them to butt up and touch.
Yep.
If we had our bleed lines crossing over and the tokens were different colors, we could end up with accidentally cutting a little bit of color out of a
Yes.
different token.
Yes.
So the bleed lines shouldn't ever butt
Overlap.
up,
Yeah.
overlapping each other. And I can fit 4 tokens moving across. You can see that there's a bit of space here between the absolute edge of where I can go up to and where I actually go up to. If I want to, I can move that right across
Mm.
and then space these out evenly.
Yep.
Don't have to. You can if you want.
Yeah.
And then if I was just, whizzing through, they're intersecting.
Yep. So you're just doing duplicates now for people that
Yeah,
don't know at home. When you select objects in Illustrator, if you hold down, well, on a
the
Mac, it's
Alt
Option.
key.
Is it Alt key on a Windows? Yeah.
Yeah,
This is good having a Windows and a Mac user. We can get those controls.
yeah,
If you hold down that key and drag, then you
yeah.
can
It's
duplicate it.
much faster than using, say, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V.
Yeah.
But I could also do that. So I just
Yes.
copied and pasted, and then you've got to move things around.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So anyway, using the Alt and Shift as well
Yeah. To keep
means
it
that
in
it will
line.
only
Yep.
move in straight lines. I think it also will do a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. It follows the smart guide type. I
Yeah.
think idea.
So this is now a perfectly usable die line. It meets all the technical requirements. It uses only spot colors
Mhm.
for all the bits of the die. Sorry, I'm just going to close my curtain because it's now reached the time of the year where I get sun right in the
So,
face at this time of the
yeah.
afternoon.
Fair enough.
Uh, If we wanted to try and get a little bit more efficiency out of our board to see if we could squeeze in another token, we
Mhm.
could do that. Spoiler, I tried that before when I was running some tests, haven't found a way to squeeze another token in. So with some shapes, it's literally the simplest layout is also the most efficient layout. Even if you're thinking, oh, surely if I just offset or I
Mm.
turn something a bit,
So
sometimes
maybe
it's,
could you just show I'm just thinking of a really obvious example. If you were to do a triangle shaped token and just
yeah,
show
sure.
because that one, you can do inefficiently and efficiently,
Yep.
yeah.
Let's do polygon. So we're going to have 3 sides. Let's make it a reasonably large. No, we
Yep.
don't want to make it too big. That would be ridiculous.
25 is still pretty small though, isn't it?
That's the radius, though.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
half the size. So let's make it 15. 15's okay.
I'm
Should have just
forgetting
left
how
it as
these
was.
things work, folks.
Yeah. Now we're going to round it. So in Illustrator, this little thing here,
Mhm.
that's how we round it. It's pretty simple. So
I
don't
think
want to
there
be
is
on that one.
also a
Some shapes have the ability, I think squares and rectangles do. I had a devil of a time looking for the pentagon options. So I know when I
okay.
see that little round dot, that's how you can round your corners.
I had a
But
feeling
we're
it
going to do
might be in the properties panel or somewhere, but I have a feeling that they introduced in one of the more recent versions, and I'm saying recent, I've been using Illustrator a long time, and I get
yeah,
messy
so
with what's
20-year-old
what.
Illustrator is very different to normal
But,
Illustrator.
like, I thought there was a way where you could come back and edit it, like it was, if there was a field that you could enter, but that's okay. 'Cause so
Yeah,
what was the radius that you chose in the end?
15 millimeters.
Oh, sorry, I meant for the rounding, what was the amount of does it tell you, is it like
Uh,
3 mil, 2 mil, does it
look,
say what
it
it is or not?
might tell me somewhere.
Yeah, 2 point
Let's have a look
something.
in the window. Where's the
I think when
transform
you were
button?
dragging it, didn't it have a number?
Here we go. Here's
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh, yeah,
transform. So
that's what I was talking about. Yep, it was there. So you can now
let's set
yeah,
it to a radius of 1.5 millimeters. So
perfect.
it's not hugely rounded, but it's
Mm,
not a tiny little one either.
yep.
So with our triangle all ready to go, just going to get rid of that.
Mhm,
We are going to set the die line. So with the stroke selected, we're going to set our die line to be red. And because I don't want it to be too chunky, I'm just going to reduce that to half a point
mhm,
of stroke. And now we're going to create our offset paths. So the first one that we're going to do is we'll do our safe.
mhm,
And where's the dashed line? There it is. So there's our safe
mhm,
margin.
mhm,
And we'll select that one again. Object, path, offset. And this time we're going to offset it by 3. So it will go
mhm,
outwards. And we're going to set that one to be purple because this is our bleed.
mhm,
I'm going to make sure that those are all grouped together. And there is our little triangle friend. So if I zoom out, when we come to making an efficient
well,
uh,
let's just do the inefficient one like this.
layout,
Just do a regular
yep,
one where you just like, copying and pasting or,
yep,
duplicating across, if that's okay. I just wanna
yeah, yeah,
show people both ways and how it can benefit them
yeah.
in what
So
they're doing.
there's quite a lot of extra room at the end here.
Mm.
So this is already not a terribly efficient layout. But if we were
Yeah.
being quick and lazy, really lazy,
Yeah, if that's all you need.
yeah, if we're, just trying things,
Oh, yeah,
so there we go.
we can get 5 rows.
Without doing a whole lot of work, we can get
Mm.
20 tokens on this board already.
Yep.
But there's a lot of space here that
Mm.
isn't being used efficiently. So this is when
Mm.
we go, all right, we can get a better layout. I'm not even going to bother keeping those because it's just not
Mhm.
worth it.
I wanna
So
keep one of them actually. Yeah.
for sure, I'm not going to keep
Yeah,
all of them though. So the
yeah,
first
yep.
thing I'm going to do is bump that one right across to make the best use across as possible and spread them out like that. Because the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a copy of that and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees.
May I offer a suggestion?
Sure.
If you were to flip the top row, I think you'll make it even more efficient. Oh, you're doing it like that?
Yeah,
Okay. So
let's
you and
me
me
do
approach
that.
it same results, but we're approaching it differently. There you go. I was just gonna
Yeah,
flip the
I
top
think
row.
because my brain goes, "This is the bottom, so it must
Yeah.
rest on this little
That's
block."
funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
but
But
end
yeah, that
result is
looks
exactly the same.
yeah.
So in the space that before we only had sort of 4 fitting, slightly
Mm.
more space than that, we've now managed to fit 7, which is
Yeah, wonderful.
pretty excellent no matter how you look at it. So we could try and be a little bit more efficient, but let's see
Mhm.
what we can fit this way. So already we've gone from having 20 in our punch board to having
Mm.
28.
Mm.
Uh, if we rotate this 180 degrees, oh look, we get a pretty little hexagon
Yeah. Will we
pattern.
get more tokens, do you think?
I don't think we will, but
No, I think this
it
one
looks
might
really
be.
pretty.
It does look good. If you wanna impress your customers with a lovely
Look at
punch
me
board
making
to
hexagons.
punch it. Yeah.
Um, plus it's,
Mm.
sometimes it's really
Mm.
satisfying just to work on a pretty
Mm.
layout. So I think I will actually leave it this way because it does make it super predictable
Yes.
when we're dropping our shapes in. And
Yep.
predictable is really good sometimes.
Yeah.
Predictable makes things easy.
Oh, totally. And I think that the main takeaway or the thing that I think I wanted to show people was that by flipping and rotating, the tokens, we can depending on the shape, you can sometimes cram a lot more in and get
Mm.
more value for what you're spending on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You don't want to get all of this useless cardboard arriving in your box because
yeah,
you paid for it. So,
yeah.
you know, work out what you can get uh, from it within the limitations that we have for the technology. Um, so I don't have any triangle artwork,
No, no, we won't use it. We'll use the pentagon because that
which is a
was
shame because
very
that's quite a nice little layout. So anyway, I will keep that. I'm
for a
going to move it
future.
over here,
Fair enough.
and we'll go back to our little pentagon friends,
Yeah.
and we'll bring them back to the center. Um, now, the fact that it's a, I'm just going to move that across. The fact that it's a nice little symmetrical layout is great because it means that setting up our art is going to be super easy.
Mhm,
Now, because we're not going to need to fuss with these shapes any longer, I'm going to lock that shapes layer because I don't want to accidentally grab something while I'm working.
mhm.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my other shapes and move them in behind. Now, the shapes that I've drawn up are exactly the size that I need for the bleed on each of these shapes.
Yep.
So if I zoom in, you can see that they come out to exactly that thing. And if I
Mm,
go and turn off my shapes layer,
mm.
you can see that it matches up perfectly. And that's
And
exactly what we want.
and for people who don't know, if you have artwork that's a bigger shape, like it might be a rectangular type piece of artwork you're trying to put into this pentagon thing, in Illustrator, you can use what's called clipping paths. So you might want to,
Mm,
we won't show it now, but if you look up clipping paths, that can then
yeah.
basically put one object into another object and cut it to that shape. So
Yeah. So that you
use
only see the bit within that shape, not anything
that.
that might be sticking
Yeah,
out.
yeah. So in this case, you could do it to the pentagon
Yeah.
shapes.
So in this case, we've got a really nice, easy layout, which is basically I'm going to select all of them, hold
Mm,
Alt and Shift to bring it across like that. And then because I don't want to have to do it 2 more times, I'm going to do all of those again. But
yeah.
because something is snapping to something else,
Mm.
I'm going to use my mouse. And there we have a custom punch board layout.
And that has worked really well
Ta-da!
for people who are like so I work a little bit more, by numbers than Kate does. Kate does this very well, whereas I tend to not always get them lining up very well. So one way you can also do it is, using the repeat, step and repeat function, I think it's called. Oh, no, sorry, in Illustrator, it's, I don't have Illustrator open in front of me. It's the if you select an object and then yeah, and
Transform.
then yes, transform, and the first one,
It's
move.
move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you can actually select the specific amount that you're moving along, and in that way,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, it's exactly
Yeah.
whatever."
So you
Like,
might say, I don't want it to go up or down,
mhm,
but I do want it to go, say, 30 millimeters across
yeah,
or
whatever the
however
measurement is that
far.
you're wanting, yeah,
And then you can
and
also say, I want it to go at a 45-degree angle.
but let's just go back to the 30 mil one that you're doing on the horizontal, so the horizontal 30 mil.
Yes.
One of the things that's nifty about this is that once you've done one of these,
Mm,
it was in, object, yep.
nope, that's the wrong one. Don't
That's right. That's okay. It was move and then move.
transform, move.
Um,
Yep.
so let's just on the horizontal. If you just make it 30 or 35, okay. So there's yes. To see it, you can do it two ways: distance or
Mhm.
horizontal. But if you just click OK, yeah, once you've got it, so
Yep.
that, and then now if you were to use Control D on Windows or Command D on Mac, it will remember that last thing that you've done, and
Yes.
it'll so you've kept just moving it across. But you could select a different token, and it'll move it 30 mil. So if you go to the yellow one and then do the Control D, yeah. So that's a quick way to if you've done a shift like a movement thing, you can boy I'm using the real technical terms here, everyone, thing. If you've done one of those transform actions, then you can duplicate it again with the
Yeah.
Control or Command D, and
But the
I
fun thing
find
as
that
well that you could
handy.
also do is instead of just moving it, you can tell it to copy it.
Yes, yes.
So it makes a copy and then you go, "Hey," and just keep making copies all the way across.
Yeah, so in that sense, with our layout, there's a few ways you can, like with most of these programs, there's like so many ways you can do the same thing.
Mm.
One way you could do is just set up your first column and then duplicate, and with the guides and everything, and then
Yeah,
duplicate the whole thing along, and
like this. Transform. We're gonna move it, and we're not gonna move it vertically, we're moving it horizontally. What did we say it needed to be?
I
It's
can't,
about 34 millimeters.
I don't remember. Yeah,
Yeah, ish, but we're
if
gonna
you
copy
copy,
it, and there it is,
yeah,
perfect.
and then if you do that
And then we'll
Control
just
D,
Control D, yes,
and then that'll do it again and do it
and
again,
there it
and then
is.
you and I find that's another quick way of, yeah, when you're not having to worry about rotating or anything like that, it can be a
Yep,
quick way of doing it. Yeah.
yeah. So when we print it, I was saying before that we don't
Mm.
actually print the die lines. That without the die lines there's the die lines, no die
Yep.
lines. That's what actually gets printed, and then we take the tool and we punch. Only the metal is on the red line,
Mm.
and that's how we get it. So,
And
um
this also means that, when you're setting up your, I'm not talking to UK, but to our audience,
mm,
when you're setting up your files with that space that's not getting printed, you can totally write notes to your customers, or you can put your game's logo, or like, other things can be in that what's currently white space, as long as it doesn't interfere with the margins of the artwork at all. Then yeah, so I think that's pretty much everything. Is that right, Kay?
yeah, so if I save this out, I'm gonna save it out as
Oh,
a PDF.
sorry, I just went off your screen, so we'll go back.
Oh,
Yep.
that's all right. So I'm gonna save it out as a PDF
Mhm.
because we're going to nope, I picked the wrong thing. I forgot to tell it to save it as a PDF. So we're going save as, and
Which way?
down here it
It's so
says,
annoying that it doesn't start
PDF.
showing it in the recording in StreamYard. It's funny.
So I'm saving it in my downloads folder just because that's easy to get to.
Yep,
I'm saving it there.
yep.
Save PDF. All right, so that's saved a copy of it. Now, the big thing to bear in mind is that when you're doing a punch board, you've got a front and a back,
Mm,
and those two have to be perfectly mirrored. So I can't use uh, the same piece for the other side of my board because this isn't actually symmetrical. Here, just go back to my little pointer. If you look, this isn't right on the
yeah,
edge, whereas over here it is. So this, it looks at a glance symmetrical, but if I uploaded one for the front and the same one for the back,
mm.
it would come out totally wrong. So what we need to do is we then need to make a copy of this file and flip it horizontally, and then we can use that as the back.
Can
But
I
that's
can I make
probably
a
a thing for
suggestion
another
on
day.
how to can I make a suggestion on how to do that quickly now in this file?
Yeah, sure.
So the way I would do it is, depending on the, I would draw a. Well, you've already got the template outlines, right? So you've got
Yep.
them. So I would just duplicate the artboard. So if you go to your artboards little thing on the left hand side in the, let's go down the bottom. No, so
Right,
just go
upwards.
yes, and then if you just zoom out a little bit, yeah, that's gonna overlay in the triangles.
That's fine. I'll hide those.
Okay.
Let's make my window a bit bigger. Pentagons, pentagons. There's the triangles.
All right. And then because you've got the, okay, so the die line has not carried across for some reason.
Locked.
Maybe because it was locked. Yeah. Okay. So maybe
easy.
Okay.
Come on, center. There we go.
And then what I would do is just select everything on that page.
Yep.
And then I would mirror it using the transform tool in the the transform box, like the window, like the pop out tool. Oh boy,
Yep.
why am I can't remember how the names of things right now. But in there, if you go to the third hamburger menu, so the top left hand corner of it.
This isn't one that I know.
That's okay. In there, it should have a flip horizontal. It's not showing up on our.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's not showing up on the screen capture, unfortunately. So for those at home, if you're in Illustrator, if you just experiment, go in there. There's a flip horizontal.
That hasn't. Oh, you know why? Because I locked die line.
Okay.
So now, if I do that, and now I'm going to flip horizontal. There we go. Did you see it just jump slightly?
Oh, yeah.
So now it's a perfect mirror image.
Yeah.
Of the front. So I could save out this artboard as my back, this artboard as my front, upload the two PDFs separately.
And when you do a save as in Illustrator, I'm so sorry I spoke over you then, but when you do a save as in Illustrator, you can pick your artboards. So you can actually just pick artboard 1. So with the range. So that does mean that if you've got a few, you can use one Illustrator file for a few different artboards or whatever if you want to.
Ignore me typing around the cat.
And just save out the appropriate one. So yeah. So the big thing that people need to remember is that if you are printing on both the front and the back of a token, which most of the time we are, your die lines need to be the back needs to be a 100 not 180 degree, but it needs to be a flipped, like a horizontal flip of the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, this is Older Eris. You may have seen that the video ended abruptly just then. Basically what happened was we were wanting to show you just another bit of part of the process or another thing to look at, and unfortunately our technology just kind of went haywire and it did not work out. So thank you for watching, much appreciated. If you have any questions or thoughts, please post them. As you know, this was our first one with faces in it, and certainly also in the format with two of us presenting at the same time and trying to go through something that's actually fairly complex. That's why it's also a longer video. So if you also have any thoughts on that, just let us know. And yeah, again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Bye.
Let's delete those triangles.
So in case I put this in the video as a blooper thing at the end, folks, what's happened is we had something unexpected occur, and both Kate and I are perplexed by it. Kate is actually trying to fix it. I'm just sitting here watching. So, yay.